All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. It is that time of the week, folks. My key games in the upcoming weekend of the world of college football. We've got some exciting action on tap, and I want to get things started tomorrow night in the Pac-12 as you're going to have the 10th ranked Utes out of Utah traveling to Corvallis to take on the 19th ranked Oregon State Beavers. Now, for the Utes, will they be able to keep on rolling? I mean, we saw that big separation Saturday, if you will, last Saturday, mainly in the Pac-12 in Utah. Even without Cam Rising, they were able to hold serve at home against a good UCLA team. Will the Utes finally get the services of Cam Rising on Saturday? We got to wait and see. But nonetheless, this is still a very talented team for head coach Kyle Whittingham, as you have running back Jaquindon Jackson, as well as a Utah defense that comes into this contest ranked ninth in the nation. Keep an eye out for defensive end Jonah Ellis. He can wreak some havoc. Already 5.5 sacks this season, and they're going to try to set the pace against this Oregon State offense. And for Oregon State, they were right there last week in their heartbreaking loss on the road in Pullman to Washington State, and they want to definitely want to bounce back, especially on their home turf. And I think DJU and this Oregon State offense definitely want to get off to a better start. Keep an eye out for running back Damian Martinez. This Utes defense has to keep eyes on him throughout this contest. And then linebacker Easton Mascarenas Arnold. What is he going to be able to do against this Utah offense? You look at the Beavers, they come in favored by 4.5. I think this is going to be a tight contest throughout. But when it's all said and done, I'm going to pick Oregon State to hold serve at home by the score of 27-24. Now, moving ahead to Saturday, one of the big contests that a lot of people are going to be focusing on, and it's the eighth ranked USC Trojans traveling to Boulder to take on the Colorado Buffaloes. And of course, with the breakup of the Pac-12 and impending, it's unfortunate that this contest right here is going to be a thing of the past. USC has basically dominated Colorado since they've been members of the Pac-12. But one thing for sure, I think Folsom Field this Saturday is going to be the loudest that it ever has been when the Trojans come to town. Now, it's another big game for Colorado, and I say that because ever since Deion Sanders has become their head coach, this team has been in the spotlight. This team has been must-see TV. But with that said, you look at USC. The Trojans historically don't shy away from the spotlight. And they're coming to town with the reigning Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback in Caleb Williams. And Caleb Williams has picked up right where he left off from last season. I mean, this guy is dialed in. And I think he has the best chance, as long as he's able to stay healthy, in regards to becoming the first player since Archie Griffin to win consecutive Heisman Trophy awards. This is how good that he is. Marshawn Lloyd and this USC running game, can they get going against this Colorado defense? And you look at edge rusher Solomon Byrd for the Trojans. He's going to be important. Why? Because you've got to be able to stabilize Colorado quarterback Shador Sanders. I know that, he didn't have his best game last week against Oregon, but guess what? Oregon is a darn good team. And I guarantee you that Shador and this Colorado offense, which includes wide receivers Xavier Weaver and Jimmy Horn, they're going to look to get back on track. But for me, the biggest thing has to be the Buffalo's defense. Colorado's defense really has not been there all season. They've made the key plays in those key moments, but I think they need to come out and set the tone early in this one. Now, I'll tell you like this. Folsom Field is going to be rocking come Saturday. And I think the best thing for Colorado to do, they got to score early to keep that crowd in the game. And if they can put some pressure on Caleb Williams and possibly force a turnover and capitalize off of that, that will be the best thing for them. But at the end of the day, the Buffs are going to have a tiger by the tail. USC is too good. And because of that, I'm going to take the Trojans on the road by the score of 44-31. Now, looking at the SEC, you're going to have the 22nd ranked Gators out of Florida traveling to Lexington to take on the Kentucky Wildcats. Now, of course, there was a time recently where the Florida Gators just dominated this series against Kentucky, but things have definitely changed, especially with Mark Stoops calling the shots as the Wildcats head coach. This is a potential statement game for both of these teams because both of these clubs, the winner obviously has the opportunity to begin 2-0 in the SEC, and it's going to be important for second year head coach Billy Napier at Florida, as well as Mark Stoops and his program. Graham Mertz has been a different quarterback ever, and honestly, not just Graham Mertz, this whole Florida team has been different ever since they put the Utah loss to begin the season behind them. And obviously, I know that the Gators, took a lot of criticism for that game. They hung tough with a good Utah team on their home turf, and I think Florida got some confidence out of that. But I think what the Gators definitely want to do, they want to slow this game down. Ricky Pearsall is a phenomenal wide receiver for Florida, but I think what they need to do is get that ground attack going with Trevor Etienne. On the flip side, for Kentucky, you got the NC State transfer at quarterback, Devin Leary. This by far is going to be his biggest test since coming to Kentucky. Running back Ray Davis could have an impact in this game for the Wildcats, as can wide receiver Tavion Robinson. But then I also look at this Wildcats defense, which has usually been one of the better defenses in the SEC since Stoops has been there. And this unit has the likes of linebacker Trevor Wallace as well as Maxwell Hairston in that secondary. Now, Kentucky comes into this contest favored by a point, and I will say this game is going to come down to field position and turnovers. And then on top of that, for both of these clubs, because points I really do feel are going to be at a premium in this one. The over under is 45. So my point is when you get to the red zone, if you're one of these teams, you got to score. If you have a scoring opportunity, period, you've got to make the most of it, regardless if it's a field goal or a touchdown. I think both of these teams are going to try to run the ball and slow down the game, as well as trying to be extra efficient with their quarterbacks. But when it's all said and done, I'm going to give the Wildcats the edge at home by the score of 24-19. Now, moving ahead to the ACC, you're going to have Clemson traveling to Syracuse to take on the Orange. And for Clemson, they come into this contest favored by 6.5 points, and they're still looking for their first ACC win of the season. They're 0-2 in the conference. Remember, they dropped their opener to begin the year at Duke, and of course, last week's heartbreak against Florida State. Just like I said last week, the Tigers offensively have to dictate things with their running game. They don't have the playmakers like they once did several years ago. But nonetheless, they've still got to go out there and establish that line of scrimmage and let running back Will Shipley do his thing. I'll tell you like this. Clemson is the better team, and I think Clemson has to flex their muscles. They have to come into this contest with a little bit of nasty. They played hard last week, but they just didn't make those key plays against Florida State when they needed to. Is there going to be some carryover from this game to this game? Possibly. But I think, Clemson knows that if they still want to have any realistic chances of winning the ACC, they cannot begin the year 0-3 in the conference. It would really hurt them. I think Clemson has a sense of urgency against Syracuse, and because of that, I'm going to take the Tigers on the road by the score of 30-24. Now, moving ahead to the Big 12, you're going to have the 24th ranked Jayhawks out of Kansas traveling to Austin to take on the third ranked Texas Longhorns. And for the Horns, they come into this contest favored by 6.5 points. They're looking to keep rolling. And for a lot of people, they really do feel that Texas has the best team in the Big 12. I did pick the Longhorns to win the Big 12 prior to the start of the season. Quinn Ewers is having the best season of his college career. Texas historically runs the football well. The same thing can be said for head coach Steve Sarkisian, and he has himself another stout running back in Jonathan Brooks. And I think that's going to open things up for the likes of Xavier Worthy and the other wide receivers in his passing game. Now, Kansas started off strong last year, and they faded away as they got into Big 12 play last year. They gotten off to another strong start here. And I do feel that some people out there are sleeping on the Jayhawks, but this is a darn good team. But what Kansas is going to have to do, they're going to need to slow down this game with their running attack with Devin Neal and Daniel Henshaw Jr. And they want to try to limit the amount of possessions that this Texas offense is going to get. Austin Booker on that defensive line for the Jayhawks has 3.5 sacks. Can he wreak some havoc in this game? We've got to wait and see. Like I said, Kansas's best chance is to slow down this game and keep the Texas offense on the sideline. It's going to be easier said than done. And because of that, I'm going to take Texas at home by the score of 37-20. Now, back in the SEC, you're going to have the 13th ranked LSU Tigers traveling to take on the 20th ranked Ole Miss Rebels. The Bayou Bengals come into this contest favored by 2.5 points, and they're looking to keep rolling. I mean, they beat a good Arkansas team at home last week. And I think you look at the athletes that Louisiana State has on both sides of the ball, with the likes of Jaden Daniels at quarterback, Malik Neighbors, of course, at wide receiver, and then, of course, Harold Perkins and this LSU defense. It's going to be a lot for Ole Miss to keep up with. And for the Rebels, they need to get back on track offensively because last week they just got shut down by a darn good Alabama defense. And I think the biggest thing that LSU has to do, pardon me, Ole Miss has to do, they've got to get running back Quinshawn Judkins going. I mean, the thing is, you look at him last year, he was this offense. And I think as he goes, so do the fortunes of Ole Miss. And if Quinshawn Judkins can't get going, LSU doesn't stand, pardon me, Ole Miss doesn't stand a chance. But at the end of the day, LSU is the better team. And I'm going to take the Bayou Bengals on the road in this one by the score of 37-27. Then you're going to have the number 11 Fighting Irish out of Notre Dame traveling to take on the 17th ranked Duke Blue Devils. Now, the Irish come into this contest favored by 5.5 points over the Devils, and they're also looking to bounce back after a heartbreaking loss at home last Saturday night against Ohio State. I think for Notre Dame, Sam Hartman and this Irish offense need to start strong, and I think it begins with running back Audric Estime. Now, obviously, there are some people who are not going to take Duke serious at this point, but I'll tell you what, this team is for real. They're legit. And why running back Jordan Walters and I think quarterback Riley Leonard could have a big impact in this one if the Devils are going to upset Notre Dame. It's going to be rocking Saturday night down there in Carolina for this game, but nonetheless, the Irish are the better team, and I think they get back on track, and I think they flex their muscles in this one. And I'm going to take Notre Dame by the score of 34-23. And finally, in the Mountain West, you're going to have the Aztecs out of San Diego State traveling to take on the Air Force Falcons. Air Force comes into this contest favored by 10.5 points, but make no mistake about it, both of these teams are in contention to win the Mountain West. I know that the Aztecs have not had the best out of conference schedule, win loss record, that is, to begin. The college football season. They played some tough Pac 12 teams, but nonetheless, San Diego State will still be a force in this conference. Quarterback Jalen Maiden for the Aztecs. What is he going to do in this one? But at the end of the day, that triple option of head coach Troy Calhoun for Air Force, it is so difficult to stop, even though if you're in the Mountain West, you see it every year. But just because you see it doesn't mean you can stop it. You look at quarterback Zach Larrier and fullback Emmanuel Michelle. They are going to be very difficult for this Aztec defense to deal with come Saturday night. And then also keep an eye out for inside linebacker Alex Mock for Air Force. Air Force, to me, I think they have what it takes to get to the Mountain West Championship game, and a win on Saturday night at home puts them a step closer to that. Obviously, we're still in the month of September, but nonetheless, I'm going to take Air Force at home by the score of 34-20. So, folks, those are my key games for this upcoming weekend in the world of college football. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Now, I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 pounds of sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now, you can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.